Hello and welcome to my latest video, and until I get my next 10 videos ready on my top 1000, we'll be back on more fighter career videos. So this video, features former light heavyweight champion George Gardner. So beginning with his major opponents, George Gardner fought and beat former coloured heavyweight champion C.C. Smith. He also then twice fought former coloured middleweight and heavyweight champion George Byers, scoring one win with one draw from those two fights. He also gained win over former coloured middleweight champion Frank Craig, before then also fighting the Barbados demon himself Joe Walcott. On two occasions, George Gardner scored one win and one loss. Now, one of his major rivals, was former light heavyweight champion Jack Root. Now, George Gardner fought Jack Root on 5 occasions, scoring 2 wins, 2 losses and 1 draw. He also fought the Galveston giant Jack Johnson, suffering a defeat, and then he twice also fought former heavyweight champion Marvin Hart, scoring 1 win with 1 draw. And he's already fought a number of good opponents. The good opponents continue with fights and losers to former 3-way great fighter Bob Fitzsimmons, suffering a defeat. He then scores win over Irish puncher Peter Marr, before then fighting Jimmy Handler on 2 occasions, scoring 1 win and 1 loss. Next up is fireman Jim Flynn. George Gardner fought Jim Flynn on 2 occasions, suffering 1 loss and 1 draw. He then lost to the capable middleweight contender Mike Schreck, before also losing to Tony Ross. Next up is Jim Jeffords. George Gardner fought him on 2 occasions, winning 1 and losing 1. And to close out this first slide, he fought Al Weinig, scoring 1 win. So there's his first slide of major opponents, some massive names on there, Fitzsimmons and Barbados Walcott. He also respectably fought many of the coloured champions around at the time, like Byers, C.C. Smith. He also fought Barbados Joe Walcott, so he certainly wasn't adverse in his time to fighting some of the best black fighters and champions of his time. So there's slide 1. We'll go on to slide 2 for George Gardner. He next up fights Billy Stift on 2 occasions, scoring 2 wins, and then he fights and loses to former heavyweight contender Al Kaufman, before also having a 5-fight series with Kid Carter, winning all 5 fights. So there's 33 major fights highlighted there. George Gardner won 18, lost 11 and drew 4 from those 33 fights listed. So when we go on to the first of his stat slides in KOs, George Gardner scored 31 knockouts, 10 of them in 3 rounds or less, and 2 in the first round. He also scored 3 KOs over champions, 2 KOs over Hall of Famers, and 4 KOs over pound-for-pound fighters. He also scored 0 KOs over rated fighters, being a pre-rating era fighter. Now when we go to his overall career in rounds boxed, George Gardner fought 573 career rounds. He fought 32 title fight rounds, and Gardner fought 195 rounds against champions. He fought 128 rounds against Hall of Famers, and a total of 160 rounds against pound-for-pound fighters. Now obviously, as with the KOs against rated fighters, Gardner pre-rating era, so he has no rounds against top 10, top 3 or ring champions in his career. So on to our next slide, what does feature his record against champions. Now George Gardner had 15 fights against champions, scoring 7 wins, 5 losses and 3 draws. He defeated 6 individual champions at a time when the original 8 divisions were not fully instated at that point. The 6 champions he defeated were C.C. Smith, George Byers, Frank Craig, Barbados Joe Walcott, Jack Root and Marvin Hart. And he scored knockout or stoppage over 3 of those 6 champions. They were Jack Root, C.C. Smith and Marvin Hart. So there's his record against champions. When we're going to his record against Hall of Famers, he has slightly less fights, still coming in with a total of 9 fights against Hall of Famers, including 3 wins, 5 losses and 1 draw, and he defeated 2 individual Hall of Famers. They were Barbados Joe Walcott and Jack Root, and he scored knockout over one of them, Jack Root. So on to the final category, pound for pounders. George Gardner had 13 fights against pound for pound fighters, scoring 6 wins with 5 losses and 2 draws. He defeated 5 individual pound for pound fighters. They were Barbados Joe Walcott, Jack Root, Peter Marr, Marvin Hart and Frank Craig. And from those 5 pound for pound fighters he defeated individually, he scored knockout or stoppage over 3 of them, Jack Root, Peter Maher and Marvin Hart. So there's the breakdown on the more niche opponent categories there. Okay, when we go on to rated opponent slide, being a pre-rating era fighter, like most fighters down at this first entry period up to 1910, he has 0 fights against top 10 fighters. Top 3 fighters are ring champions, and thus George Gardner defeated no individual rated fighters and scored knockouts over 0 individual rated fighters. So when we go on to his title fight record slide, George Gardner had 2 world title fights with a record of 1 win, 1 loss and no draw. George Gardner made no title defences. He did score 1 title fight KO, and as a pre-rating era fighter, of course, he has no wins against top 10 fighters, top 3 fighters or ring champions, and Gardner has 1 win in all 3 categories against champions, Hall of Famers and pound-pounders. He has that 1 win in each category in title fights. So, George Gardner, let's close out on titles won. Okay, George Gardner captured in his career the world light heavyweight title. He was also, he's also still recognised, as lineal light heavyweight champion of the world, and he's also credited as being undisputed light heavyweight champion of the world. So there's the video on George Gardner. Okay, another light heavyweight following on from Jack O'Brien. There's other divisions getting opened soon, okay, featherweight and bantamweight, and other fighters added now across multiple of the divisions coming up over coming days while I get my next 10 videos ready for my top 1,000 countdown. So there's George Gardner. Okay, I am the boxing librarian. I will be back soon. Just one quick thing before I go. Of course, Vasyl Lomachenko announced his retirement recently, and I listened to a part of a live stream. I had to turn it off because it were like hero worship. A live stream from Michael Montero regarding Lomachenko and how great he may have been. Pretty shocking, some of the things he said, especially when he said, well, Andre Ward really didn't do enough to get into Hall of Fame, but when I considered his gold medal, as an amateur, then that were enough to get him in. I'm like, well, and he was saying that Lomachenko haters say you can't consider the amateur career. Well, no, you don't have to be a Lomachenko hater to say you can't cover amateur career and add it to his pro career to artificially inflate someone into Hall of Fame like you admitted you did with Andre Ward. It's just called people's opinions. Some people say that because they do have this irrational hatred for Lomachenko. Other people say that because that's just how they rate fighters. Carte blanche calling everybody haters who disagrees with that is a bit naive, a bit low level, So I may do a live stream on that, my thoughts, not on Michael Montero, because I think a lot of his points were ridiculous. And, his breakdown of Lomachenko's resume he did, hides a number of things. Like when he said, Lomachenko went quality over quantity. When I heard him say that, I thought, yeah, but Ezard Charles, Archie Moore, Greb, many others, they have quality and quantity. He's like, Lomachenko doesn't have the quantity, but he's got the quality. Well, Ezard Charles has quantity and quality. So does that mean he's automatically greater than Lomachenko? It's ridiculous talking points. So I may do a live stream on that over coming days. I'll wait and see. I'm not really doing live streams on this channel, but every now and then, something like that, I may do a live stream to give me thoughts on it. Etc. But anyway, there's the video on George Gardner. I'll be back soon with more videos. I'm out for now.